Our guest today is best known for his roles playing Simon Drake on ABC's How to Get Away with Murder and as a mayor on Times the Shy. He's also appeared on shows like Good Place, All Rise, and Chicago PD. He originated the role of Abe in the Pulitzer Prize winning and Tony nominated play Disgrace. Please welcome wonderfully talented Behzad Dabu.
Hi, hi, hi. Thanks for
Hey,
having me.
Behzad. Welcome
How's
to
it
the
going?
show. Good. How are you?
I'm good as can be as in the world we live in.
Amen.
Right? Isn't like the last year and a half somebody asks you and you're like, well, all things considered, today's not the
Yeah,
worst.
it's
I'm
funny
here.
every couple months. It's funny every couple months to go back and like think about what I thought the last couple months was going to be. Like even the beginning, I was like, okay, cool. So for 3 weeks we get a vacation. This ain't so bad. I'm gonna sleep for 3 weeks, you know? And then like
Right.
people started dying and 3 weeks turned into 3 months to maybe 3 years, and it's just like, oh, okay. Yikes.
I know, right?
We have children, they grow up. You know, some of my buddies have these kids and they were like born after COVID and they're like starting to talk now. You know, it's like
Yes. We have a new BC with before COVID.
BC.
Exactly. It's so weird. I remember, like last summer, they were like, this COVID thing, it could go to summer 21. And it was like, that fuck off. No way.
Yeah.
That seems like so long from now. We'll definitely be in the clear. And now we're going into September 21 and we're like, well, still here.
Oh yeah, and
Still got a long way.
We'll be here summer 22, I think.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
God.
We'll see. Well, listen, Behzad, thank you for being here. Thanks for coming on the show. You're an East Coast guy, born in Syracuse, right?
Yeah, I was born in Syracuse. I was actually no.
My
that's not
dad's
true.
from Syracuse.
It's so funny that I just like lied to everybody, but like because I believed it. I was actually not born in Syracuse. I was born in Boston, but I was raised in Syracuse. So I went to school in Syracuse. And where's your dad from in Syracuse? Do you know? No, you don't. It's okay.
Like what neighborhood or?
Syracuse is like, yeah. I mean, nah, it's all right. So I was from a place just outside of Syracuse called Liverpool.
Okay.
And but my parents currently live in Syracuse, and then I went to Chicago, and now I'm in LA. I
Yeah.
kind of have moved west.
Right.
Yeah.
Next is
Hawaii, I guess.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Yeah, and I know you went to Columbia College.
This week we have
Chicago.
Japanese-based actor Behzad.
That's right.
So before getting to Chicago, that's an incredible chapter that I'd love to talk to you about. But as you're going through your life on the East Coast, before the summit of your professional pursuits, what's going in your head? Did you know that you wanted to do this for a living? Were you pursuing other things? Was this an accident? What's the story?
So people who know me might laugh at this, but I, as a kid and early teen, like preteen, basketball was what I was going to do with the rest of my life. I'm currently an NBA historian. I'm an NBA super fan. Like I'm an NBA guy, right?
I didn't know this.
But back in the day,
You're from
was like-
Syracuse and my dad's obsessed with basketball. You guys would just get on right as rain.
I mean, Syracuse to basketball is like Friday Night Lights town for football. I mean, it really
Oh
is.
yeah, SU. I've grown up watching Otto and the Orangemen my whole life.
Exactly, but we also don't have a pro team anywhere near us. So like Syracuse really kind of takes on that pro team. It's also the largest. Anyway, besides of all that, so I was really playing basketball, and I was going to do that. Like if you told me at 13, I'm going to play professional basketball, and I knew at the time that didn't necessarily mean the NBA. I knew all the other avenues of professional basketball like all over the world, and I had friends who had older brothers who were playing professionally in Germany and in Italy and in Moscow and like all those kinds of things. So I was like, I'm gonna play professional basketball, and then I just like stopped growing, and everybody else kept growing.
Were you so at the high water mark on the court?
Yeah, I wasn't
were
short.
you killing it?
I was not short.
What were you
No,
playing? What position?
I play point guard, but you know, it was funny. It was like I was playing point guard, but I got moved up from freshman to JV, like all my shit. So like everything was like the trajectory of what a professional basketball player would have. My team in the sort of amateur, what we called Optimist League, which was the amateur league, we were undefeated. I was an all-star. I was going to Syracuse camps. Like things were good.
On the cover of the Syracuse Sun.
And then I just, it's like, it happened so quick. It's like, I was good. Oh, we have to time out.
Can everyone check their connections? There's someone's got a big buzz hum going on.
It's I tried with my speaker. I thought it would be me, but
Oh yeah.
It's me.
Behzad, do you have a big fan or something next to you?
No.
Let me see.
Did it just start?
No, it's kind of been there the whole time, but when you mute, it goes away.
What does it sound like?
Wow.
I have a question for you. Tell me if this makes it go away. You ready?
Yep.
Okay, that's a problem, because let me tell you what that is. This has happened to me before. That is when my computer is plugged in.
Mine's plugged in too. I wonder. I guess I'm okay, but
It's such a weird thing. Like right now, it's not plugged in. I mean, my computer dies pretty fast. But let's see what happens. So it's gone now, right?
Yeah, Behzad, if you could just keep an eye on your battery, and we'll, if we need to kick it in later, it's cool. But all right, sweet. All right, untime out.
So do we need to start over?
No, whole thing. No.
Okay.
Get his photo in the Syracuse sun. Go ahead.
It happens when I plug in my charger. It's really a weird thing.
No worries. We can edit and all that stuff.
Yeah. I'll chop all this out.
Yeah.
So basically, I want to play basketball, and then it was great. It was like one day I was beating everybody, and like and then I got to be honest, like nothing changed with me, but like 2 weeks later, everybody was beating me. I remember just being like, why am I not as good anymore? And I remember there was like a summer where I was like, I'm going to work really hard. So that summer I like did all like the solo exercises and like jump squats and like, all like the things you do alone in basketball. Like, I'm running sprints and stuff at night, and Syracuse is a snowy place. So I would like, go through the snow to like find an open gym to like shoot shots with cold hands and like did all that. And it wasn't good. And I just had to be like, everybody is now bigger, stronger, and faster than me. And like, I didn't get bigger, stronger, faster. And everybody else did. And I didn't. And I was like, well, this isn't going to happen for me. And I will say maybe the best thing I had was my gift of self-awareness, which I still have, and my gift of cynicism, which I still have, because a lot of people in that situation are like, no, I can still make it. I was like, no, I'm done. I was like,
cut your losses. Let's find something else.
It ain't happening for me. I still play for fun. I play twice a week as like exercise and rec. I love the sport. I follow the sport. I bet on the sport. So like basketball is a part of my life every single day, but like I am no longer playing the way I was playing. And so, but if you asked me what I was doing as a kid, it was that. And then it was that moment that I really put that effort and energy and threw it into like the school plays and the community theater and stuff like that. So I remember that summer, I actually like did a whole bunch of community theater. And Syracuse kind of has a thriving community theater scene, whatever that means. Like there's a lot of different companies that do it. It's not just like one company in town.
Right.
And so, we did the community theater stuff, and I was like, I think I'm good at this. I think I can make a life of this. I like doing this, and I like the effect it has on people.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like this is a classic: one door closes, another door opens. The world gives you this big no, and it turns into this alternate avenue. So in terms of starting out, what were you experiencing regarding? I'm sure you were excited about this possibility, but there's struggle. So even in community theater, even when you're young, I'm sure there's the equivalent of everyone else is better than me, or everything. You have the classic thoughts in your head. Did you kind of have that in the back of your head where you thought maybe this is something that I want to do, but it's something that looks very, very difficult, and I don't think I'm good enough to do it?
I mean, I don't want to so early jump into like the preachy diversity stuff, but I have to in this moment because and by preachy diversity stuff I obviously believe in, but right. I just it was in this moment that I didn't know what I was going through at the time, but like 10-15 years later I could look back and be like, oh, what I was going through was like, nobody looks like me that does this. And I was watching television, and like there was not one actor that looked like me, like not one. We had Apu on The Simpsons. So I grew up in the late 90s.
It was played by a white guy.
So late 90s, early 2000s where I grew up. And like, we had Apu and the Simpsons, and we had That Is It. Like that was it. And every once in a while, like a small guest star would be like an Indian dude at a 7-Eleven, or like some guy being like, he's a tax accountant guy talking, you know what I mean, doing that whole thing, right? And you're like, oh my God, like that was it.
Just caricatures. There weren't real people, man.
Caricatures
right?
for one episode. You know.
Right.
I remember seeing like Parvesh Cheena on a who's a friend now, but I remember seeing him when I was young as like an outsourced call center guy, you know, and like things like that. It's like, ugh, and like that's it. That's all we had. And so I think part of me was like, what do you think you're doing? You don't do this. This is like not for you.
Why do you think you have a place here, right?
Yeah.
Like that's probably what you're thinking.
Yeah. And then of course my community theater was all white, and I was doing roles back then that I'd be canceled for today.
Like
you know,
what?
like I was playing the King in King and I, and doing all of the offensive things that come with that, which you think come with that. Yeah. And I was playing Chino in West Side Story and doing all the offensive things that you can imagine come with that. Yes, we were all doing that. And like, I look back now and I'm a little shocked and horrified, but at the same time, I'm like, I was 16 years old. No one told me anything about it. No one was talking about it. The adults were not only not saying anything was wrong with it, the adults were encouraging it along and being like, more, you look great. This is awesome. You're amazing.
With your little cap.
So it's like,
nice. Yeah, that's good. Dance,
exactly.
Behzad, more offensive? More?
I mean,
just a little bit.
I mean,
yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah.
I mean, looking back, it feels like that. At the time, it didn't. You know, at the time, it was like, hey, you dropped your accent there. And like the accent was like the offensive accent. Yeah. And like we even did Lend Me a Tenor, which involved blackface. If you know that play, it's a farce.
Wow.
And so we just didn't know.
Times a changed.
Yeah, and I'm not defending it or anything like that, but sometimes it's like, you know, we just didn't know. We didn't know. I had no idea that I was doing a single thing offensive. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so those were the roles I was playing. But once again, I bring this up to say it's because there wasn't anything for us. And it wasn't until I actually graduated from college majoring in this and like then came to LA that we start to see, oh, there's a Dev Patel, there's a Riz Ahmed, there's a Himesh Patel, there's a Usman Ali. Yeah, there's an Aziz. Yes, there's other actors. There's a Mindy Kaling. There's these other options. There's a Purna Jagannathan on shows. And like, so things are starting to happen. And I'm like,
she's like, cool. Even more congratulations to you on going forward with everything and succeeding when at that time, years ago, you're sort of looking around at the marketplace. And let's all be clear, the three of us, being an actor is fucking hard anyway for anybody, let alone looking around as you were going, well, people who look like me make up barely any of the marketplace of what's on screen, whether it's on stage, in a theater, or on TV. So it's already so hard, and now I'm going for roles that are like blips in the marketplace.
100%. Yeah.
You had
for you to just be like, I'm gonna fucking do this. I want to do this, even though that's the case. It
was never television and film for me though. As a kid, like that was not the dream. It was always theater. And my mom had really instilled a love of theater in me. She loved theater growing up, and my mom grew up in India. And in India, she grew up in a family that like loved the arts and loved the theater. She grew up in sort of this big home in India, which was they do joint families. So like on one level was my mom's family, and then like the level above was her dad's brother's family, and the level above was another brother's family, but they were all related in this like sort of like multi-level home. It's very India, and
I love that.
And so my mom would tell stories like, you come home from school and there's a rehearsal going on in one room, there's a dance choreography happening in another room, there were singing songs in another room, and like art was just always in the house. And so my mom was like super supportive of creating that type of home here. So she put me and my younger brother into like all the lessons we could. Even when I was playing basketball, I was also like in drumming lessons, and I was also like, when I was young, like she put me in like public speaking class or something like that. And like there was like, all these like little things. And we didn't grow up wealthy. So to think back now, knowing how expensive all that shit is like, oh my God, Mom, you were spending like the only $500 you had on like my acting class or whatever it is. You know what I mean?
What a mom. What a mom.
Yeah, she was amazing. And my dad was
That's
supportive.
awesome.
He was driving me to all of those things, picking me up from all those things. So my mom was really all about it. And so she put such a love of theater in me. We grew up a few hours north of Broadway that we would drive down and see plays my whole life. So even though I wasn't going to do this because I was playing basketball, I still had like seen the original production of like I've seen
The
all these
seeds
plays.
had slowly been planted, even though you didn't know it at the time. But when you made that switch, it was like, I already love this.
Yeah, I mean, like I had gone to see like the second week opening production of like Rent in '96 when it opened. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Like, and I had no idea what it was, or that it was important, or that it mattered, or that it would like be an album I heard 30 years later. But like, my mom took me to the show, and like, I'd seen stuff. So that was pretty cool.
So you had that seed was planted, and you've been doing this community stuff, this high school stuff, and then Columbia is knocking on the door. How did that all happen? How did you decide that the Midwest was the place to head?
It's so funny. It's so funny how this happened. But I was at a college fair and I met a guy named Murphy Monroe at a college fair. And
was he Irish?
Murphy Monroe.
Good
in a college fair in White Plains, New York, and I was going to NYU or Emerson. Yeah, it was. And I was going to either NYU or Emerson. Like that's where I was going to go.
Okay.
And because those are the schools like in my area that recruited for those things, and they were supposed to be good, and like I wanted to do whatever was the best, and I was gonna, I'm gonna go to the best. That was like my thought, and Columbia kind of like was really exciting to me, literally by their marketing materials and their brochure and the whole thing of like working professionals. And it was different, it was unique, and it was like, we're gonna NYU, you can't perform for 2 years. Emerson was like, you know what I noticed about Emerson? Their brochures all had the pictures of the musicals, but I wanted to do plays because I'm not really a singer. So then I was like, oh, do you guys do plays too? And the guy was like, yeah. And I was like, no, it sounds like you don't.
Funny, you're saying yes, but I'm hearing no.
Because I'm not seeing any pictures of the plays. But then
that's the thing without music, right? Yeah, the plays. Yeah.
We do that. But the thing about Columbia was like they had the opposite. Like all of their pictures from the brochures were like the plays, and like the musical theater was like whatever. And like I find out later.
I mean, it makes sense. Syracuse, just north of Broadway, that's going to be where a lot of musical theater people are around. And Chicago's this amazing drama town. So, I get it.
So I'm like, I want to do these plays. And like Columbia had the pictures of plays. So I was like, I don't care if they don't really focus on musical theater as much as the other schools. That's not what I want to do. So I have my parents come down for a school visit. And we do a school visit in New York. We do a school visit in Chicago 2 weeks in a row. And the one in New York, we see whatever's happening on Broadway that we get tickets to at the TS booth. And then we do one in Chicago. So in New York, I see 40
what? 40 what? 40 what?
40.
You're breaking up. Hold on. 40 mules?
Behzad?
Maybe he's thinking.
Second Street, a revival, and Fiddler.
We had a break.
Am I here?
There were 40 something, and then
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back. It was just
Oh, okay. Okay, so we went to New York and we saw 42nd Street and Fiddler on the Roof. So we saw these two musicals. And then we went to Chicago the following week and we saw The Pain and the Itch at Steppenwolf, Bruce Norris, and a show called Frankie and Johnny and the Claire de Yasin Payankov, and I think either Amy Morton or Laurie Metcalf. No, Laurie Metcalf. Laurie Metcalf.
Oh, yeah.
Laurie Metcalf.
Nice.
And those two shows blew me away. I mean, The Pain in the Itch, and like Tracy Letts is in it, and Tim Hopper was in it, and Fran Guinan was in it, and like all these actors. And remember, I knew who none of these people were, right? I'd never even heard these names. I never heard of Bruce Norris, nothing, nothing, nothing. But it was raw and it was gritty. And like, it was about like pain in the itch. And then, like at the very end, you find out that like there's an uncle molesting a kid and they have an STD. And I was like, oh my God, theater can do this shit. Cause all I'd done was community theater. I had just done like Gypsy at, you know what I mean? And I was like, y'all can talk about this shit in community theater. Like, and of course, Steppenwolf, not community theater, but like, that's what I was like, oh my God. And then I was comparing it to like the very sort of 42nd Street of what I saw in New York. And it wasn't that Columbia got me, it was that Chicago got me.
It called to you.
Yeah. And then like the next day I'm seeing Frankie and Johnny the Claire de Lune. The first 20 minutes, the actors are walking around ass naked. And like literally butt naked. That starts with a sex scene and they walk around naked for the next 20 minutes. And like for me in my 18-year-old mind, I was like, this is real shit. This is real shit. You know what I mean? And then, you know, you go visit Columbia the next day and they're like, oh yeah, one of the ensemble members teaches here. And oh yeah, one of the company members is Sheldon Patinkin and he does that there. And I'm like, I'm coming here. It's done. So I applied the next day, got an early admission and I was out. That was it.
And what was the turnaround? When did you?
Oh my God.
I shipped off a couple months later. I mean, I ended up in Columbia August 2005. I think if you look, I bet those shows were 2004.
And your time at Columbia, it was 4 years, right?
I did a lot at Columbia, but I graduated in 3 years.
Okay. And I'm sure you performed.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I performed. I loved it. But I was a tour guide while I was in school.
In the bus.
Yeah, like that. We had like a little trailer, but I was like the tour guide. No, not the Chicago tour guide. I was a Columbia tour guide, like for admissions.
I see.
And so I learned so much about it that I ended up, when I graduated, I worked in the admissions office, and I worked my way up in the admissions office. I became the director of international admissions at Columbia. After
my God.
So I was doing that while I was acting in Theater My Chicago. That was my day job. That's how I survived.
I didn't know that.
So if this thing is about the break and this thing is about, you know, struggle, it's really hard to have a full-time benefits salary job and be an actor in Chicago. I mean, it's really, really hard.
Yeah, and you can't just dip out and hit an audition, come back and be you know, have a 401k and all that good stuff, right?
No, especially it's like if you have a job that's flexible, you have a job that's flexible. When you're being paid for a job that's full-time, you expect to be full-time. And I remember, so I did my first show outside of college, or my second one was actually the History Boys at Timeline Theater.
And did you get that yourself, or did you get that through a rep?
I got that myself.
Nice.
And what I remember though, we kept extending, and I had a big trip I had to do for this job because I was the director of international missions and involved a lot of traveling. I left the show for 6 weeks.
Oh my God.
I legit like left the show for 6 weeks to go do this job. Like there was definitely a struggle. I had to turn down a lot of things. So like that happened for a while. And I remember one of the biggest decisions of my life, and I know we're going a little out of order, but one of the biggest decisions of my life, and the hardest, maybe the hardest decision of my life, was sitting at a Starbucks with my best friend at the time and being like, I'm doing really well in this Columbia job. I'm moving up quick. I'm one of the youngest directors of international admissions in the country. I'm traveling the world. I'm making good money. I was like, if I don't quit, I'm doing this forever.
Yeah.
If I don't quit, I will be the director of international admissions for when I'm 65 years old.
Sometimes
I have to quit.
I firmly believe this, that when you're on this track, whatever it is, you've got this thing that you're pursuing on the wings, and your peripherals are these what seem like incredible opportunities that ease your desire for comfort, for your necessity for survival and all that stuff. And that comes in the form of a salary and benefits and structure and all that good stuff. Yet it's actually there, I believe, as a weeding out mechanism for the people who really do want to do this. I gave up when Groupon came to Chicago. They were the fastest growing and largest company really in the country, and they offered me salary. I knew what that was, and I knew what I was up against. I knew I couldn't leave for auditions. I said no, and a week later I booked my first network TV. So the universe really does reward your vision, your avoidance of outside distractions and temptations. And so this is hard. I mean, this is a hard thing for you to turn away from. So you did.
Yeah, and then I went from living at Millennium Park Plaza, which is like the tall building, literally looking over Millennium Park, downtown, and having a 24th floor view, and like doing all this shit. It wasn't like a penthouse or anything, but it was cool. And then
Right.
I like moved to Lincoln Square, and I changed my whole life. It's like I have some long-term friends, Hillary Williams, Ashley Neal in Chicago, stuff like that, and they talk about that shift. Like, I used to wear a suit every day, button-ups all the time. If you look at my old Facebook pictures, it's like I was always wearing a button-up. Why? Because I was coming from work and I was like wearing button-ups, and I was like that guy, and I lived downtown. I was that guy. And then like I went to Lincoln, and then I moved to like Lincoln Square and started wearing like t-shirts and shorts every day. And like I became a different guy. You know what I mean? Like I was like, oh, now I'm like, I get to sleep in and I get to,
Bum around.
and but also I can't afford anything anymore. And
Did you find though that as things went on that you were enjoying that sort of lifestyle where it was more simplistic, it was more natural, it was less
For sure.
the man and less downtown and less fucking button ups?
Yes, I did enjoy. There were little things like when we go out with friends before, right? I would like rent a zip car, pick everybody up, park, buy drinks. Like I was that
You were
guy.
that
And then
guy.
like yeah, and then like
Jesus.
3 weeks later I quit, and then everyone's like, "Hey, Bay, you want to go out?" And I'm like, the Grafton has $2 PBRs, and we can walk. You know
You're
what I mean? Like,
go out. I haven't eaten in 3 days.
I was like, guys, I don't have money anymore.
Oh.
But
That's a
yeah,
big
it was a tough
change, man.
decision.
That's a big change.
It was a big
That's
decision.
change.
But I knew I wanted to do it, and it was like I had just done Disgraced at American Theater Company at the time, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go to Broadway with this. And then like I didn't.
Yeah.
The show went to Broadway, but I didn't. Like that was a big rejection.
One of those many bumps that you'll hit, right?
Many bumps, yeah, many bumps. I did bad shows in Chicago. I did good shows in Chicago. I did great shows in Chicago that I got horrible reviews for.
What was the thing that kind of started to change your trajectory in terms of your booking and your comfortability in becoming this working actor? I know you started to book some TV stuff. You were repped with who in
Marisa
Chicago?
Panessa.
Marisa.
Panessa.
We were both repped with Marisa back in what you were. This is probably 10 to 15 or 14.
Even
for you?
before. So
Before, okay.
you want to hear this? So I do a Columbia College 2008. Marisa is with Dawn Gray at an agency called Encore. Marisa kind of scoops me out of this showcase at Columbia College, and I'm repped by Encore for a couple of years. And then Encore splits. Dawn Gray does her own thing. Marisa Panessa does her own thing. But Marisa took like an extra 6 months to set up, and so I waited that 6 months for Marisa. No shade at all to Dawn. I love Dawn. I love the family. I love her son Zach. They're all great. But I like Marisa was my point person. Like that's who I rocked with. And so I waited 6 months for Marisa, and I was one of her first clients to sign on the day that she opened up. And I stayed with Marisa up until like a year ago.
Whoa.
Yeah. Wow. We signed like within a week of each other, and yeah, like departing from her was a tough thing. She's really great. You look for an agent who has your back and who just is so genuine and good. She's awesome, man. She's awesome. So as things start to pick up, she's getting you in the
every
rooms,
day.
right?
Yeah, I miss her every day. She's starting to get me in the rooms. Still primarily on my own connections, right? I started to really kind of make a name for myself in theater. So the way the theater thing happened was I did Holes at Adventure Stage right after college. It was really fun. And then I did The History Boys, which really launched a lot of our careers. From The History Boys, I did Christmas Carol at the Goodman. And then I started working at Victory Gardens a lot. I did a terrible show at Victory Gardens called Disconnect. Terrible show. But then, I learned like what it's like to be in a bomb where you're in a big ass main stage at VG and there's 8 people there and there's like 330 empty seats. And you're like, ooh, eight times a week. I mean, we had Tuesday shows in that big space at VG. Oh my God. Or like Wednesday night shows where I'm like, oh my God. And
you know what?
The
Though,
stage manager has to come back and be like, guys, there's more cast members than audience, so we got.
Yeah, there's more cast members than audience, and then some people be like, "Aw," and I'm like, "Well, the show is bad, y'all."
Well, yeah, but let's be honest though, B. You know that I've had that at dramatists. You'd have like 5 people in the audience for a Christmas sketch or something, and you're just like, God Almighty. But what did that teach you? That taught you how to get the power and get the emotion and get everything, despite having nothing there.
Yes.
Which prompted you into TV and film, because there is never an audience, you know. So of course
100%.
that bomb sucks, but you got to go through those bombs in order to get to like a place where you are now, where you can perform fucking anything for nobody.
100%. 100%. I remember that show too. Like, my character would down Red Bulls. My cat really wants to be a part of this podcast.
No, what's your cat's name?
Gigi. She's amazing.
God bless you,
I
Gigi.
love her so much. My character had to down these Red Bulls, so they'd manufactured like a little like water in a can, and it still gave us the sound, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But man, I'll tell you, the amount of times I went to the CVS across the street, got some real Red Bulls, and gave it to the ASM and be like, put this one out there, and I would be downing like real Red Bulls, because I was like, I need something. Anyway.
You know that 20 years ago that would have been just cocaine.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm smart enough to not do that. But then I did The History Boy. I did Disgraced. So the original production of Disgraced that really kind of launched my career, because I think it's one of the greatest plays of the decade, written that decade. I personally believe that in 30 years, theater students will be studying Disgraced, along with the classics of, Glass Menagerie and, whatever, Death of a Salesman. I think that they'll be studying Disgraced as well.
Yeah.
But, doing that production and working on the original production, I started to become known as like a new play actor. So I did Samsara with Lauren Yee, another new play, Blood and Gifts, a Chicago premiere, and Nana, a professional production premiere. So I started to work on a lot of new plays, and I really started to love that, like the new play development process, working with playwrights, working with directors on crafting character, being the first person to originate something, right?
That's cool.
I really started to love that. And the best time I've ever had on stage in my entire life, and it's not close, was doing Samsara at Victory Gardens, Lauren Yee's play. And I got to originate this character of a fetus, and like this like genius fetus who like sort of lives, only the audience can see, and the other characters on stage can't see. Right. And so it was this really fun character. I had complete freedom, and it was a good full circle moment, because the most fun I've ever had on stage is on the same stage as the worst production I've ever done.
Isn't that gorgeous?
And I love that I got that moment to because I kind of associated that theater of like, ugh. And then like, I was like, oh no, now it's like associated with the most fun I've ever had on stage.
Beautiful moment. I love that's great. I love those like full circle moments.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. Good for you. I'm glad that you recognize
that
it
stage
too.
for you is the opening line of Tale of Two Cities.
That was the best of times.
Right.
It was the worst of times. What is it? It was like the epoch of something. It was the epoch of something. Yes.
And so with all this going on stage, at what point did on camera come into the picture?
So on camera came into the picture, to be honest, in a very weird way. So I was getting called into Claire Simon a lot. I was getting called into PR a lot. And I was not getting called into, there was no Cargie Ross at the time, actually. Cargie Ross was a little later, as far as an office of themselves. And all I was getting was the one-line PD, one-line med, one-line fire, and it was like, I don't know, maybe 500 no's.
And just for everyone who's listening, he's talking about Chicago PD, Chicago med, Chicago fire.
Yeah, that whole thing.
And Behzad, how were you accepting these co-stars? Were you thinking, I'm going to do this, but damn it, I want bigger, I want more? Or was it something where you're like, God, I can't wait for my co-star? Were you so excited?
No, I just wanted a book. I just wanted a book. Also, I was so broke that at the time, like $800 in a day, I can make $800 in a day. I was like, oh my God, I can make $800 in a day.
No rehearsal.
Yes, exactly.
A few hours. On stage, you're like in rehearsal for months. You run for months. It's such a time-consuming process. And like the amount of money that you can make from a co-star is kind of funny. If you come from the theater world, which I do as well. Exactly. And you're like, this is insane. I can do my rent in like 3 hours.
Right.
No rehearsal.
And what I was doing for money was I was consulting people based on the knowledge I had learned in my Columbia job, the director of admissions job. So I was like consulting people on college admissions, which is how I was like making money on the side.
Great idea. Using what you know to have side income.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome
Exactly.
job.
So I'm doing all that, and then I'm like doing these auditions. But honestly, like, no shade to casting directors in Chicago, but some of your casting directors in Chicago kind of gave me straight up told me like, these are the roles for you, and it was kind of like, this is what you're gonna get, you know. And I did a panel. It was like they used to do this thing in Chicago. It was like Chicago Artist Week or something like that. It was all downtown at like the cultural buildings downtown. And I remember I did a panel, and one of the casting directors did that panel with me and basically said like, I have to keep my best Chicago actors for these roles to fill out the world. And I was like, oh, I'm always going to be a co-star. I'm always going to be filling out the world. So how do I fix that? I didn't do anything about it. I still didn't want to go to LA. That was not a thing I wanted to do. It was not important to me. But Kimberly Senior called me one day and she was like, I want you to do Disgraced in Los Angeles. And just for clarification for y'all, because I'm skipping around so much, I was done doing Disgraced at that point. I had done it more than any actor in the country. I had done it in Seattle. I had done it in San Francisco. I had done it in Chicago twice. I had done it with the ATC and the Goodman. I had done the same role so many times. I was done with that play. And she was like, I want you to do it in LA. And I was not thinking television film even then. I was thinking my brother lives in LA. That'd be nice to go spend a summer with him. So I'll do it.
So what year was this, B?
This was 2016.
Got it.
Oh,
and so I go do the play in LA, and man, did I have the summer of my life.
Yeah.
I'm doing a play that I already know. Right. Back and forth, front and back, every line.
It's
every
the love
entrance.
of your life.
Yeah.
You're like,
I mean,
I got the, yeah.
Yeah. And I could legit like take a nap in between scenes, like wake up 10 minutes before, like, you know what I mean?
Isn't
like,
that great when you're in that zone? You just get that and you're good. I love that.
And know that I wasn't even phoning it in. Like, I'll give you the performance of a lifetime, but I'm like
Sure.
texting 10 seconds before on stage. Like, I got it. You know what I mean? And so like, I'm in and like doing this thing. And all of a sudden I'm like loving LA. Cause I'm like, think about it. I'm working at this great theater in LA, and like every night, like Ed Harris is coming, Tom Hanks is coming, like, you know what I mean?
At
like,
Mark Taper?
Yeah, I was at the Mark Taper Forum, and I'm not
great
really
place.
rehearsing. So like all day, I'm like going to the beach, I'm eating tacos, I'm like, you know, discovering LA, I'm going to the Laker game, like I'm chilling, you know what I mean? And then it's like doing this play that I know I'm good in, that the cast is great, and like it's awesome, it's fun, I'm leading talkbacks and stuff like that. And then Marisa calls, and Marisa's like, yo, these casting directors want to see you. They saw you in the play last night. These casting directors want to see you. They saw you in the play last night. And I'm like, again, thinking, whatever. Now, important frame of reference. I had worked 11 years professionally in Chicago to finally have this season that I was going back to in 2016. Mm-hmm. I was going to do a show at VG. I was going to do a show at the Goodman. I had a show at Steppenwolf. Like, I had like shows lined up. I had a show at at Timeline. So I was going back to back from basically October through like May of the following year. I was lined up with the shows I wanted to do. It was the season I had always dreamed of. And I just remember being like, I'm going back to do this amazing season. And then like, I'm booking TV out here, and I just had to cancel one show at a time. It was like, I'm not going to do the Timeline. I'm not going to do VG show. I'm not going to do the Goodman show. I'm not going to do the Steppenwolf show. I'm just not going to do the show. Not going to do the show.
And I would assume these are not co-star roles.
Well, so it kind of was. It was, I started How to Get a Murder. I booked that on my first audition in LA, and it was like a co-star. And the character didn't even have a name. The character was Pompous Face. My contract for my first big television gig is called Pompous Face.
And you're like, that's what they fucking called me in high school.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
I love that.
So it was Pompous Face, and then
face.
And so I'm on set, and I'm like, you know what?
Oh my God.
This has to be my master's program. I'm going to learn about this world. I'm going to treat this like a master's program. I'm going to learn about
who your fucking lead is. Jesus.
Exactly. And she was amazing starting from day one. I talked to her about Chicago. She was interested, like, blah, blah, blah. And like, I believe that because I was sort of confident, comfortable with my work, that it helped me stay around. So I never had a multiple episode contract. So it was one co-star at a time for the first 5 until because I treated it like a master's program, I started learning. I was like, oh, so there's agents and managers. This is what managers do. And then, okay, there's publicists, and this is what line producers do. And then they're controlling budget. Okay, so then this has happened. So I'm getting one contract at a time. This is what the contract is called, blah, 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 blah. I was like, And my learning, I go, I'm getting fucked. I started learning it and I was like, wait a minute. I should be a top of show guest star and I should have a recurring contract. I'm getting fucked. And I was like, so I started writing emails to the only people I kind of knew. I knew like one person who used to be an assistant agent at Dawn Gray back in the day is now a manager at this company. Let me find them on Facebook and reach out. And like, I started doing some shit like that. I was like, hey, I'm on a show and I'm getting fucked. I was like, can somebody help me? And like, it worked. And then like, oh, come meet this guy, come meet this guy. So I went and got a manager.
Do you think that was like at the time, they clearly didn't know that you were going to be around so often? It was like, well, if his last contract was co-star, we'll just do that again. And it just sort of kept happening until things changed.
I think that I should preface what I'm about to say by saying How to Get Away with Murder was one of the best experiences of my life. I loved all the people. I loved everybody involved, and this is no shade, but I think they knew exactly what they were doing.
Yeah. I completely agree. I was a guest star. They took down one scene and wanted to call me co-star to save $7,000. And my agent was like, no. You booked him a co-star. We booked him a guest star. We know what you're doing. No. Yeah. So good for you for being on top of it.
Yeah. And I think it's like, I don't think it's like, fuck this guy. Ha ha ha. I think it's like no credits. Never heard of this agent. Let's offer him a co-star. See if he takes it. It's my dumbass fault for taking it. You know? So like I took it and I kept going with it, but then I realized what was up. I got a manager. The manager gave him a quick call and things were different. You know, like things started to be different. Like I was like, I know he's a guest star. So I did 5 guest stars. Then after 5 guest stars, we did 5 Top of Show guest stars. After 5 Top of Show guest stars, we learned to get a recurring guest star. And I never got to regular. We tried, never got to regular. So more rejection there. But at the same time, I learned a lot. I learned a lot about like, oh, there's like business stuff happening here. Like, and I learned 2 things. I learned being on time, being good, being prepared, being respectful, being all of that shit is important and it is necessary, but it also isn't necessarily going to be financially rewarded. Like I learned that like you must do those things because those are the things you must do and you should do, and you'll get fired if you don't. And this is the way to be a good artist and a good collaborator. And I always advocate that in the people that I talk to. But at the same time, if you're doing it because you expect that that's what's going to get you bumped up to regular, it's not. And if you're doing it because you think that that's what's going to get you stay around for an extra episode and maybe they won't kill off your character, it won't.
Yeah.
So you can't be doing those things for the purpose of like getting something. You
it's
have
sort
to
of
just
like
do
becoming
those
an
things.
actor so that you can be on red carpets and get paid a lot of money and have followers and shit. But that's not going to get you through your first year. You're going to be done before you even start. So you have to know your why, and that why has to be legitimate because you're not going to just get bumped for certain things and then what? You're pissed off for.
Yeah.
So you're saying you shouldn't do those things purely for the ulterior motive of getting X, Y, and Z on the back end of being nice, which by the way, in this industry, you should just be those things because you never know down the line after, Get Away with Murder's done, who's doing something else later down the line. They're like, actually, I really fucking love that guy. He's fucking on time. He's nice as hell. He's so good to everybody. He's just good energy to be around. Why don't we bring him in?
It'll be a miracle if you don't cross paths with your past.
Yeah, you never know where it's going to go down the line. But in the moment, yes, you shouldn't do those things just purely with an ulterior motive in mind of, in the moment, this is going to help me in the immediate. You should just do those things though, because in this industry, it is important, and a lot of people don't do that shit. And they have bad reputations, and people don't want to work with them.
I agree with you 1,000,000%, 100%. And I want to add, even when you're doing those things for the good reason though, don't think that it'll be rewarded though. Like that's the thing. Don't have an expectation that like, well, I'm on time and I do good work and I'm prepped, so you have to bring me around. It's like, no, that's just the job. That's the bare minimum.
Why didn't I get my corporate raise this year? I showed up.
Exactly.
I did the fucking minimum. Like, you mean you came to work? We already pay you. Like,
And
yeah.
what was great about a show being led by Viola Davis is because whoever number one on the call sheet is sort of like sets the tone for
Yes.
the way it is. You know, she's incredible and kind and hardworking and all the positive things you could say, I would say about her, right? And so it taught me, like, you know, when you see these stories of these A-listers being weird and horrible and nightmares, I was like, well, here's an A-lister who's being, I mean, absolutely incredible. Like, I can't say a single negative thing about Viola Davis or that whole experience. Like, some of the stuff that like I found to be frustrating during the time of like, well, I don't know when I'm coming back and what's going on with my character, what's going on with this money and what's going on, and I don't understand what's happening. Like, all that stuff, it wasn't that they did anything wrong or that like How to Get a Murder or ABC or Disney was bad. It's not that at all. It's just that like I didn't really know what was going on. I kind of like I was jumped feet first in and I was learning, but I learned so much. I learned so much that I've taken with me on to be like, now I understand what all those things are. And it taught me the value of understanding the business, because after that How to Get a Murder thing ended, that's when I had my LA experience. Like, that's when I had, because that was kind of a dream, right? You do a play, a casting director comes, you do your first audition, you book it, it ends up being 20 episodes. That's kind of a dream. But then that
Fuck
ended.
you.
But then it ended, and then it was like, oh, I didn't work for 3 years.
Right.
That was the real, like, here we go. I had to change in those 3 years. I changed agents 3 times. You got dropped once. I got dropped for literally not working.
What you just said is important, because in this industry, you shouldn't just take things for granted or, oh, I have a job and that's it. And I'm not going to learn anymore. You should constantly be reading the room, listening, taking notes. Oh, that's what this person does. Got it. That's how these people are connected. Actually, what the fuck is in my contract? What contract am I on? What are the above contracts? And learn more, because like anything, knowledge is power. And if you are an actor with a lot of knowledge on contracts and what people do on set, you can go to your reps and be like, I want X, Y, and Z. Why have we not even been talking about this? I know that these things are true. I'm doing my own research. You're being smart. You're gaining knowledge. Like, I was a stand-in on a TV show for 5 years. And
how much did you learn on Gotham, Adam? My God.
As a film, I write and direct films, and it was like, that was an MFA program on filmmaking.
100%.
Because as a stand-in, the whole production revolves around you for, either 5 minutes or 90 minutes, whatever it does to take up the shot.
You're acting as first team for that time, so you understand. Yeah,
but you're in direct contact with the director of photography, the entire camera crew, sound,
yes,
all these people, and it's like, this is how everyone communicates to each other. That's what this means. That's what this means.
I love that you're saying that.
You're with the whole crew. You're a part of the crew, and it all revolves around you. And then as a filmmaker, I was like, I have this entire vocabulary that I've had every day for 5 years. And now I know how to communicate with a DP or my producers, because I had this education, and I didn't just go, oh, I have this job, I'll show up and I'll leave. When I was there, I went, I'm going to listen, and I'm learning, because I love this anyway, but it's soaking all that in and going, now I have a whole new knowledge about this thing that I love and I want to do. And also on top of being an actor, because when you're basically first team, you're surrounded with all the cameras that really no one ever, it's kind of hard to replicate that experience on a set if you've never done it before. So it's like, as a filmmaker, I'm gaining all this knowledge. And as an actor, this whole world of this massive budget show and being on a set with all these people, I'm used to it because I'm there every day. So when I do book something and I'm on a TV show, this is secondhand to me. This is not like overwhelming or new. I do it every day. So I think what you said is super important. Shut up, listen, take notes, speak out when you need to, just learn. Learn, because it just makes you so much better.
By episode 5 or 6, I started being like, okay, well, I'm on set to do this acting for this amount of time, but when I'm not acting, I am 100%. I was like, you guys keep saying, this, what does that mean? Or like, why are there 3 people? Oh, so that's camera A and that's doing this. Oh, so there's a guy focusing it in the back. Got it. Okay, understood. Like I started learning what was happening.
Oh yeah.
And what was amazing is fast forward 5 years, I'm now the director of the acting track for Lena Waithe's like Hillman Grad Mentorship Program, which is really me talking to early career actors about this stuff. And a lot of that knowledge that I'm talking to early career actors about is what I learned back then when I started to learn. Not only that, contracts and stuff, I started learning a lot about SAG and SAG-AFTRA, and I understood the parties and the factions within SAG-AFTRA. And I am now currently, literally in 2 days, I am running for a board seat, a SAG-AFTRA delegate seat for SAG-AFTRA,
Awesome.
because I started to learn a lot about SAG and our union. So this knowledge that I really wanted to acquire, I am actually kind of shocked at how many actors, and successful actors at that, don't know about our contracts, don't know about our union, don't know about what that camera is called. And like, that's fine, to each their own. But for me, it's like knowing every aspect. It comes from the basketball again. It's like, I want to know, I don't just want to know who my favorite player is, what team he plays for, who's his agent, what's his salary, like what's his position, where do you go to school? So all of that helps me inform what's going on in the team, you know? And so it's the same thing with this. It's like, I want to understand, what does it mean? At the beginning, I was like, what's bigger, guest star or co-star? Now I want to understand why a top of show guest star rate is different on cable than it is on premium, than it is on streaming, and how those residual rates are coming. Like, I started to learn different things. It's like, because I love having a fully encapsulated knowledge, and I think it really helps. And now I'm sort of passing that on to early career actors in a way that I love, because I think it's important.
That's
and
amazing.
next you're going to be the director of admissions at SAG.
I hope we open it up like that.
All right, before you pay your first round of dues, by the way, welcome to SAG, congratulations. I want you to tell me the difference between blah, 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 blah.
Right.
They're like, this awesome, there's a test.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have this course called Working Actor Pro, and we literally like show people how to make money as an actor, and not just
amazing.
Here's how you book. It's what's the business. Here's contracts. Here's tax stuff. Here's the way to, you know, take down your nerves and get an agent, and whatever the drama schools aren't telling kids as they get into.
I love that. I love that.
I don't think that we're any longer. It's a you'll figure it out on your own type process, because of our ability to tell the story, like this podcast or like our course or like your program that you have. But there's too many great actors who lose their footing because they just don't know, and then they become fucking insurance salesmen, you know. And there's nothing wrong with being an insurance salesman, but when you're supposed to be an actor, that's wrong. That's the tragedy.
100%. I agree with you. And it's like, the business is the business is business. And I see over and over again who's good at it. And I'm like, and watch them. It's not that you can't be a good actor at the business, but like, man, it really helps. And it really helps to know what's going on and be in charge of things. It opened up so many opportunities. So I agree with you. And the acting schools are not doing the greatest job of it, but I am trying hard. Like, whenever I'm asked to speak at something or talk to a college or something, I always say, I will happily do that, but I want my hour to be a Q&A on the industry and the business. I was like, there are plenty of actors who can come in here and talk scene study and monologue workshop. Plenty. I can do that.
But that's why they're there anyway.
Yeah, but
you're already in school.
Right.
I was like, let me do a Q&A. Ask me questions about why I need a lawyer, or why I need a publicist, or what they do, or what's the difference between a production, a studio, and a network, right? Like, who is paying for what? Well, why? Like, you know, what's the difference between ABC, Disney, Shondaland, you know, like who's what and who does what. So all of that stuff. Yeah.
And you can't get taught that in school. You can only get taught that by people who have been, not by a professor, but by somebody who has been through it. So you did mention though that you hit a snag for 3 years after that show. I mean,
I'm still in that snag, y'all.
And you hit that snag, y'all. What are you doing to get past it, get through it?
So y'all, so here's the thing. So I actually got a lot of that. You know, that joke that y'all even pulled 5 minutes ago. I got a lot of that, of like, when I was here, it was like, you know, oh, well, you didn't have the real LA experience. I mean, lucky you. Why? Like, you came right here. And I was like, that might be true, but that's not true now. Like, that did not end up being true. That was true for like a year, but that's not true now. So then it was just hard. It was like, I mean, there was a day not long after How to Get a Murder and The Chi. I did a couple episodes on The Chi. But there was not long after that I got dropped by my agents. that I just could not book, that like I couldn't do things. And it just like, it was a bad time for me career-wise. And I'm going to be honest, y'all. I love my new team. I love my new agents. I love my manager. I'm very happy in my life here. And like, I'm confident in my career. However, I have not booked a television or film gig in over 80 straight auditions. I keep track of every audition, every casting director, the role, whether I got a callback or not, whether I have a producer session or not, whether I booked it or not, and which rep at my company got it to me. I have a spreadsheet that I keep for every single audition. I'm over 80 auditions straight without booking. I booked a small guest star at the top of 2020 before the pandemic on All Rise. It was a small one-day guest star. If you take that one gig away, I actually haven't worked in over 3 years on television and film. So you might be thinking like, how though, right? I've done a lot of other things in that time. And this is the thing, is like, you can look on my IMDb and be like, like he hasn't been working. And it's hard. Do you know how hard it is to do another great audition in this space I'm in right now, where I have an amazing self-tape area and I make amazing tapes and I get a callback and I don't book it 80 times? It's hard. 3 years. But I'm invited to table reads at major companies. I'm coaching actors for Disney movies. I'm investing in money. I'm investing in cryptocurrency to make money. I'm the director of acting for this Hillman Grad mentorship program. I'm constantly doing table reads. I'm working on my own projects. I'm pitching to production companies. I'm doing a lot of things as an actor. So for the actors out there that think there's two ways to make money, and that's like performing on stage, performing on camera, like, you are wrong. My good friend Will Allen and I, respected Chicago actor, just 2 weeks ago, went to a hospital and we made sort of reenactment videos of like what doctors do wrong that doctors can then watch in med school. And we made reenactment videos for 2 days. And we had a blast. We had a blast. And the only thing we needed to do was in the morning, like, put our ego aside.
Yes. That is a humble thing, is to, you know what? Medical videos. Good Lord. How many times did we get asked to go to Northwestern for like a medical video?
Yeah.
God almighty, paid $80. Humble.
So me and Will Allen, and Will's a great actor, right? So Will Allen and I were driving to this thing and we're both like, in the morning, whatever. Make some quick money today, right? At 11 a.m., we're in the same room with everybody else. And I sent him a text. This is about 3 hours later. And I sent him a text. And he's literally like right across from me. And I was like, my text was like, it's actually kind of fun. I'm having a great time. And he was like, yo, me too. And like that night, we had this whole plan of like getting dinner on our own because we're going to hate everybody who was there. And like that night, we ended up joining everybody for dinner. And we had like a great time. We met these amazing people. We exchanged numbers. Like, it was so fun. And I was like, all we had to do was change our perspective on the day. I was a working actor today. I made good money today. I met good people today. I did good work today. Like, I don't know. Like, I know some people, I have some friends who would consider that day a failure, and I consider that day a huge success.
Yeah, not 16-year-old Behzad, that's for sure. I mean, honestly, Adam has a great quote, and it's when you're angry at where you are right now, remember that at one point this was your dream.
Yeah.
So that shitty role that you're on, oh my God, just get me through this day, whatever. At one point, I was laying in bed just dreaming about that moment of being on set and working and all that stuff. So you got to work, you did great work. You got to make connections and you got to make money. And you know what? Isn't that the point of this business?
100%. And it's like, I mean, we made more doing that than we would have on a co-star on whatever big show there is. You know Amazing. What I mean? I met cool people. I learned a lot about the medical industry, actually. Like, me and Will were like, on the way back, we were talking about like, did you know that they have to do this and that this happens? Like, doctors have to do this? I was like, this is crazy. Like, it was really cool.
I think you got to change things up, right?
It's like diversify within the entertainment industry. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes, you could do that like 80 no's in a row and just go, okay, we're just going to do the same thing tomorrow. Or diversify and start doing this and start doing that and just make yourself a richer person and actor by doing more than just showing up to self tapes.
And y'all, if you really immerse yourself in, I gotta say this is important, because I just said, you know, I haven't worked in 3 years outside of that guest star, and like that's true, right? But a couple weeks ago I was on set for this Disney movie, and I'm working with an actor. I'm an acting coach, and I'm working with an actor on this movie, and casting came up to me and they were like, hey, just so you know, your tape last week was incredible for another project. They were like, incredible. We love you. Thank you for constantly making us look good. That felt good. You know, I've done table reads with like legends. I've been invited to do table reads with legends, and the producer was like, we know that you can go toe to toe with them, you know? So these little like things keep you going. And so it's like, yeah, I haven't booked, but I'm close. I'm developing a show right now that I'm going to be pitching to Amazon. Like, these are things that it's like, I'm not there, but like I'm close. And you have to just not look at your successes. You have to look at the journey of being like, okay, well, you're about to pitch a show to Amazon. That's dope. Even though you don't get paid for that. And even though that's not like a credit you can put on your resume. And even though that's not like a thing that goes on your IMDb profile. And it's not like a thing that you can say is tangible. You have created a thing that you are pitching to people that matter, and that is worthy of celebration. And so all of this is about like changing perspective.
And Behzad, I think you are this fucking close to have inadvertently planted seeds throughout your career of being very smart and a very good person, that those things are going to come back around to you. Look, the timetable isn't always what you want it to be, obviously. However, there are things going on and important people saying things to you that I think it's only a matter of time before all of those things start paying off, and you start to reap the benefits of all these things that you did for years and years and years, and just showing up, doing good work, being a good person, being fucking smart. And I think in the next several years, you're going to see a lot of things happen for you that you were. Yeah.
Thank you. You know, I want to say one more thing too, real quick. You know, my girlfriend said something to me that really put something in perspective, and she's not in the industry. And so it really helped because she's not in the industry. But she said, so when I quit my job, the Columbia job, I had one goal, and it was make a living as an actor. Don't have to have another job. Just make a living as an actor without having to do like a side hustle anymore. And I was still doing the side hustle for a little bit, but like I wanted to just not have to do a side hustle. And currently that's what I'm doing. So it's like that quote that you said, you know, like, are you doing the thing you always dreamed of? So remember that when you're trying to get to the next level or whatever. I love that. So I was like, yeah, you know, I am an actor without a side hustle, and that's my only job. And that's how I'll pay all my bills. And that was my goal. And I was like, but I haven't worked in a long time. And she flips it and she goes, and think about that. You haven't worked in a long time and you're still able to pay your bills as an actor. That's actually more of an achievement, because that means you've done it. Like you are able to even like weather the storm of not working and still pay your bills. And I was like, wow, thank you for that perspective shift, because we think like the success is I did 10 jobs this year. But like, if the real success is like, I did 0 jobs this year and I'm still good.
I'd love to hear the most successful actors say, I never went through a stretch of no work.
Exactly.
Like everybody, I went on set and I was really angry because I only had maybe a year without any work. And I came up to Steven Schnechter, big Broadway guy, soap guy. And I said, I've been out of work for a year. And he goes, yeah, it sucks. Mine was 8 years. Whoa. An older guy, you know, and he's like, yeah, my wife said you had to get a job. And he got through it. And you know what? He started booking again. What happens if he stopped at 7? What happens if he stopped at 4 or 3 and said, this just ain't working anymore? That's everybody goes through the drought. Question is how long and when is it going to happen? That's it. Get through it.
And during that time that I wasn't doing this work these last couple of years, my soul has been wanting to like work. So I did some theater. I did a I Culture play at La Jolla Playhouse. I came back just this past pandemic and did I Hate It Here, which was a streaming show at the Goodman. Like, I did these theater things to get my soul going, to get my heart going, to get my brain working. And like those things kind of saved me as an artist, because I was like, let me get back to the work. I didn't make a lot of money doing those things, but it was definitely like, I want to do the work. It was good for like my soul. And I think about what you just said, like there's a guy named Pelfrey, Tom Pelfrey. He just played other in Ozark in that final season. If y'all watched it,
I haven't watched it yet.
Oh my God, he was incredible. He plays Laura Linney's brother. Incredible.
Oh my God.
He was incredible.
How the fuck did they snub him for the Emmys? Like, he was amazing on that show.
He was amazing. He had like this.
Oh my God.
I won't spoil it for you, Tommy, but he basically had like I would say a 6-episode guest star arc that was like incredible.
An arc. Behzad. Arc. Like going so much. His first episode, you're like, is he a good actor? And then at the end, you're like, give him every award.
Well, now I'm
just
watching.
Amazing.
You gotta watch
He's incredible.
But,
oh my God.
So Tom Pelfrey, and he goes toe to toe with Laura Linney, and I read an art because I was like, who is this guy? Like, he's incredible. And like I Google him and I see there's this article about him. I forget what publication, but there was an article about him, and it was basically like, this guy has been coming in and doing incredible auditions in LA for so many years that all the casting directors were like, that guy's amazing. They just weren't casting him for whatever dumb reason. You don't get cast, right? Too tall, too short, too white, too brown, too whatever it is. Like you don't get cast because you don't get cast because you don't get cast because you don't have the right agent because whatever. Fine. It's like not even worth thinking about why you don't get cast. So he just wasn't getting cast. And then like somebody was like, hey, look at this script. We have to have a guy like basically, I don't want to spoil it, but we need an incredible actor to go toe to toe with Laura Linney for this 6 episodes. And they were like, call Tom. And they called Tom and he came in and he booked it. And now he was like considered the biggest snub of the Emmys, and now he's working and boom, boom, boom. And another story like that is Justin Hartley, who was the main white dude brother on This Is Us. He was not working. He was doing bit part. He's extremely good looking. He's in shape. He's got this great team and blah, blah, blah. He's just not working. And then he just books This Is Us and now he's everywhere. And so it's kind of just like
inexplainable.
They put the work in though, right?
Yeah.
They put the work in and they made a reputation as being known as a good actor.
And they endured. They just endured. Sometimes, like Rusty Schwimmer is my mentor. She's played my mom a couple of times. I've called her a handful of times at my darkest and deepest, and she'll really change my perspective and just say that it's about endurance. It's about how long you can stand in this shit, not about if you're handle it or not, or if it's going to come or not. It's about how long can you stand. Talk to an actor about their big booking. Ask them what they did the year before. Yeah. Chances are it's not a lot of stuff, and that's wonderful to know.
Yeah,
it's wonderful to know.
Behzad, to those who are just sort of starting out, or maybe they're like in their final year of college or an MFA program and they're really looking to do this, what would your advice to those people be?
It's the same advice, but slightly different. So like if you're going to do theater, then I would encourage you to really learn the business of theater. Do you know what the difference between a for-profit and a non-for-profit theater model is? If it's a non-for-profit theater model, how do they make money and how do they pay salaries? If it's a for-profit model, how does that work? Who are the producers? What are the major companies? What's the difference between a venue and a production house? You should know that. So like, is New York Theater Workshop bringing their Broadway show to the Nederlander? Or is that like, what does that mean? Like, who's making money if a show's at the Lyceum? How does a playwright make money? How does a director make money? Like all of that thing I would learn. And the same thing is true if you're going to LA to kind of go to television and film, even in Chicago, New York for television and film. I would say, are you reading Deadline and Hollywood Reporter? Do you understand the difference between a production company and a studio and a network and who is running them? And how does a show get made? And what is the process? What's the difference between a treatment and a deck and a pitch? And what's the difference between a guest star and a co-star and a top of show guest star? And how does that work? And streaming rates versus cable. Do you know what the 5 networks are? Do you know what the 5 major studios are? Like all of these things. What is a distribution deal? I think I would recommend that you learn that. And if all of that sounds intimidating, just start by Googling it. And if that sounds, it'll be less intimidating. And then it's like, read Deadline every day. I read Deadline every single day. I read Deadline every day. You know why do I read Deadline every day? Because I'll click on an article and it'll say, Viola Davis's Juvie Productions to helm picture in association with so and so productions. Okay, cool. So then 2 weeks later, I read that same production company is doing another project, but with Viola Davis again. And I'm like, wait, what? And then I go to IMDb Pro and realize, oh, they have the same manager. Oh, so this is called a package. Oh, okay, cool. And then like 3 weeks later, you're like, oh, Juvie is the production company, but they have a first look with boom, 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 you know? And like, okay, what does a first look mean? You just start to like, it just leads you down a web. So just start reading shit, immerse yourself.
Because otherwise, you're an actor in a dark room. When you know nothing about the business, you're just like, I just have a really good self tape. Here you go. That's all you can do. But if you know about the business, the light goes on. You see everything and everyone, and you can go around and maneuver through that room without hitting your goddamn knee on the table, because you know where you're going. You know what people are coming from which direction and why they are. And the most important thing about that is you become comfortable. In an extremely uncomfortable situation, you become comfortable because you know with the whole world, you're part of it.
And it helps because like I'm creating this show right now, right? And I'm creating a family drama about an Indian American family, which hasn't been made yet. And I'm creating this thing, and it helps because it's like, okay, I want to go to Amazon with it because I understand what Amazon does.
You know the market.
I don't want to go to CBS with it because I know they would never do it.
Yeah.
Because I know what CBS does and I know what Amazon does. But I also know that Disney owns Hulu, and I have a contact at Disney because Disney also owns ABC, which is How to Get a Murder. So I can use this contact to get into Hulu. Like, but I only can do that if I know that, because otherwise I'm like, I don't have any contacts at Hulu. I only have contacts at Disney. It's like they own them. You know what I mean? It's like helping that. It really does help. And it also helps to be like, oh, M88 is a production company that reps a lot of artists of color. Okay, cool. Like if I have a project that wants to do that, maybe I want to package it with that. You know, it just helps to know this stuff. It helps to immerse yourself, and it helps when you do some people say they hate networking. I'm like, they hate the schmoozing. They hate that thing. It's like, well, you hate it because you don't know what to talk about. But actually, if you read the stuff all day long, there's so much to talk about. You could go to an event tonight, and if you've been reading Deadline, you could be like, oh my God, the SAG elections are coming up, or oh my God, the writer's strike, or oh my God, whatever. And if you read this stuff, then you know this stuff to talk about. So you feel more confident going into schmoozing situations or networking situations.
Well, chances are you're going to know more than them because
exactly
there might be some people just
in
don't
terms
take the
of
time
knowledge is power. I can't tell you to everybody listening, get an IMDb Pro account.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Just the amount of stuff and who's behind the scenes and whose client is who and what company has blah, 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 blah. It's all there, and it is just such a wealth of knowledge that like I find myself going down the deepest rabbit holes on IMDb Pro, and I'm
100.
like, I'm glad I fucking know that now. I didn't got it. And how you were saying with production companies, and oh, because I see over here the manager of so and so has a, and it's all interconnected, and it's just such a huge wealth of knowledge.
Absolutely.
Behzad, do you have anything in the pipeline coming up that you want to plug?
All of my attention and effort and energy outside of the millions of self-tapes is going into creating the show. I'm really excited about it. Things are happening, albeit slowly, but it's almost impossible to get a show on TV. But that's where I'm focusing on, and I'm creating this. Indian American family drama in association with a great writer, and I'm excited about it. And we're just trying to make that happen.
Awesome.
So that's where my energy is, and that's what's in the pipeline.
And where can people find you?
So it's. My name is on all the social media. So it's at BEHZADDABU on Instagram and on Twitter. You can find me. Please follow me on both. Feel free to reach out. I'll respond if I can. And that's that.
Awesome.
Behzad, thank you so much. This was amazing. I think people are going to have not only learn a lot, but I think more importantly with this episode, be aware of a lot more. Like, oh, didn't even think that, you know what I mean? Like it's going to enlighten people's awareness more of this business. And as an actor, just things you need to know. This was amazing. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Always happy to chat. Thank you.
You're the best. Thanks for coming on the show. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.